with our sponsor. Sponsors help us to continue to go live every single week and to deliver to you guys any gaps that we see in the media, bring that information to you, and discuss the things that are taking place within our nation when it comes to the global, our foreign affairs, our social, cultural things as well. So, the sponsor today I want to mention is one that I wholeheartedly love, wholeheartedly support, and will get behind. And this is Augusta Precious Metals. They are a US based company founded in 2012 that specializes exclusively in gold and silver IRAs, helping retirement savers diversify by rolling over traditional IRAs and 401ks into precious metals. Now, this company stands out for one big reason: their ethics and their customer service. They've been named Money Magazine's best overall gold IRA company 3 years in a row, 2022 to 2024. And Investopedia calls them the most transparent pricing company. That's saying a lot when we have a lot of gimmicks out there in the market. Augusta is A plus rated with the BBB, AAA with the Better Business Consumer Alliance, excuse me. And they've gotten over 1,000 5-star reviews from customers who were really satisfied. They also offer something very rare, which is the highest buyback guarantee. So if you ever wanted to sell your gold back to them, you can do that with a peace of mind. They also have zero set up, custodian, and storage fees for up to 10 years. Plus, there's a 7-day money back guarantee when you open your account. This is just to help to make sure that you don't have any pressure and you can clearly think through the purchase and what you want to do and make sure you make the right decision for you. Augusta is really big on educating people, which is one of the things I really love about this company, is that their customer service team doesn't necessarily work. They don't at all work for a commission or anything like that if you sign up. So it's basically just educating you so you make the right decision and you know what you're getting into. And you can avoid the common traps and misinformation that some companies use. And you get to choose your own gold and silver products. They don't push anything on you. They keep you in charge. So if you're looking for a long-term honest support for your retirement investments, Augusta Precious Metals really deliver. I love their ethics. I love the way that they manage things, and also that they're a Christian company that has Christian values, even in their terms and conditions when it comes to partnering with us as affiliates. I just love the way that they manage everything in the back end that you don't get to see. So if you're thinking about investing in silver or gold for your Roth IRAs or 401ks, consider Augusta Precious Metals. That link should be down, I believe, in the description of each of our socials today, so you can tune in. Now, jumping into today's topic, there are 3 things I want to cover today. It's going to be the Clinton Annex, which we discovered. This is an additional piece of files that under the FBI, under Comey's FBI, we saw wasn't fully investigated. We're also going to be talking about the Israel versus Hamas conflict, where the media likes to paint it as Israel versus the Palestinians. That conflict as well. We're going to dissect some things there. We're also going to talk about these California wildfires. Where do the people in California stand in regards to that and what Governor Newsom has not done, basically, in his state? And then we're going to finish off this segment, guys, with some wins from the Trump administration, and as well as heading into our November midterms. So with me today to discuss the different topics that we have, and I'm going to bring in our special guest because she's going to give some insight too as well. I have Lynz Loomis with me today. You guys have seen her in my past podcast. She shed some light on immigration and legal immigration, as well as human sex trafficking, different things like that. She's a private investigator, expert in her field. She is married. She does have children. She's an amazing woman of God. I've been able to travel with her, see her speak at different churches and different things, and she is amazing, which is why I wanted to lend her my platform to be able to speak on certain issues that I know that she can shed some light on or give a different perspective on what she's seeing. She's also Christian conservative. She loves the Lord, and no sugarcoating about that. I can testify to the many times that we've been and we've shared a hotel room together, and this woman wakes up speaking in tongues. Like, she's amazing. I just love her faith. I love that she is unapologetic about what she believes in terms of her relationship with God, and she's willing to pray for people at any moment, even as she spreads her message and does her work. Like, she's just who she is, and it's just beautiful. So she's the real deal, which is why I wanted her to be on with me today. Lynz, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're doing great today. How are you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your kind words, and it's a blessing to be here, as
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. You're awesome. It's truly an honor to have you, to be honest, with your background. Okay, so first I want to get into the Clinton Annex. Okay, so what I'm currently seeing in the media right now is a huge gap here in discussing this issue. So I know that we have to focus on the Epstein files, right? I'm not saying that we should get away from that at all, but I can kind of see how the media is like most so painting this as, let's pick something that we can get Trump on, that this seems like he is lagging behind in and delivering what he says he wants to do. Verse and also this covers them, because remember there was a lack in coverage that we had when it came to the Clinton Annex, their her private email servers. Now her thumb drives is coming to the forefront with, I believe, Senator Grassley releasing that classified information, and now there's an investigation into that, right? And so I'm wondering, kind of why didn't the journalists, the media, do their job here when it came to this? And I'm not sure if it's because of, you know, because they were afraid of the FBI under Biden, because as I was discussing earlier with my producer, is we saw a woman, Sharona, last name
Bishop.
Bishop. Thank you,
Yeah,
Sharona
you're
Bishop,
welcome.
who,
She's great.
yeah, yeah, and she shared her testimony about how she was, speaking out against the horrors that were taking place in the school system with them teaching, different things to kids, like when it comes to the whole transgender stuff and all of that in schools. And she was targeted, and as well as I believe it had to do with her connection with a Tina woman named Tina as well. But her home was raided, right? So it seemed like it was more of a fear tactic to get her to shut up than anything else. So I don't know if people were afraid to speak out underneath Biden. I doubt it was kind of that, because they're still on the same train under Trump, who would rather, instead of send the FBI, to them for political gain, he's literally defeating them in court, like CBS. He just won a major victory there. So I'm
Yeah.
just wondering why they didn't cover this story. Why was this overlooked? And it seems like to me they're trying to use the Epstein files and kind of going after that, attacking that as a way to cover themselves, and cover the fact that there was not full investigation on the journalist part, because they could have used that FOIA act to request some of the resources that they would need to look into the situation further, and to come up with some inquiries into as to why certain things were dropped or weren't investigated. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would just say it mainstream media as a whole. I'm not targeting any specific ones, but it's like the CCP state media, the communist propaganda, and we see that if you watch Into the Light movie that Mike Smith produced and put out, he actually sits down with Laura Logan, and they talk about how their agents are three-letter agency type agents that represent them in order to get them to cover something. And discovering that, when you see the look on Laura Logan's face when she recognizes that, a lot of these people, their entire lives would be shut down, and then they pay attention to the body count underneath the Clintons of how many people have died by suicide or by weird terms. They're not going to cover those things. They're more worried about making sure they get along with the status quo. I mean, look at politicians. It's the same beast. It's just got a different name on it. So I think they don't cover it because they want to make sure to boost up the state's media. Then you have some that are starting to get their message is getting louder. I was at the National Press Club last week in Washington, D.C. I was listening to my friend Laura Logan speak, but also listening to the Christian genocide in Nigeria. And
Mm.
there was very good independent journalists there, and you've got Laura Logan there speaking, but you don't have any of the mainstream media there. Why are they not covering that story? Because it
Mm.
doesn't get them whatever points. And these people that are on the front lines in Nigeria talking about those stories, their lives are on the line. What it boils
Mm.
down to is, are these journalists willing to put their life on the line to bring the truth to the American people and globally, no matter what it costs them? And the truth is no, because if they were, then you'd see more of it. And that's my personal opinion.
I totally agree with you on that, like 100%. It just seems like it's always some type of what gain that we get from this versus just being honest with the American people and committing to the nation to bring the honesty, to bring the truth, and to help shape our nation forward in truth. I want to talk about why this matters that we uncover that the thumb drives and the Obama emails that were sent back and forth between Clinton and Obama on her private server, which is evidence we found too that Obama didn't even use his real name; he used a fake name, and it kind of looked like there was some intuition on his part, knowing that she was using, a private server versus what she should have been using, which is like this, the as Secretary of State, she should have been using a secure one from the government. But number one, when we talk about the thumb drives and the emails. So first of all, let me just back this up a little bit to give us a little bit of context, or just to help remind the viewers and us how we got to these thumb drives and these emails. So first off, when there was probing or more, I would say, shining more light on her private email server and a possible investigation into this, her attorneys started to transfer her emails onto thumb drives and onto other laptops. They said that they were trying to separate work from personal, but and if that were the case, why end up destroying some of this stuff? They found, the FBI found evidence that the laptops that they transferred some of these files on were also destroyed by hammer, and that also these thumb drives as well. Some of the stuff in the emails or on these laptops were also destroyed by BleachBit as well.
Mhm.
But this poses a national security threat. Our national security is at stake. So when you think about these drives, they might hold secrets about, because she's the Secretary of State at the time, they might hold secrets about the U.S. military strategy, foreign negotiations, or U.S. national security threats. We're talking about our people that we've hired on as spies. They're doing their job to protect this nation and other nations that could have been at risk. We're talking about these people that put their line on the line on their life, on the line for America now being at risk. And this would give it would be like handing over basically the playbook of America's defense to the enemy. The FBI's role, their job was to check every inch of these drives to make sure nothing dangerous was out there. By not investigating this, they left a huge question mark about whether this investigation or information on her emails on her laptop were leaked or even compromised. Okay. Lynz hit on another thing that is super important. This is about trust in our government and our law enforcement as well. The FBI is supposed to investigate anyone who mishandles sensitive information, no matter how powerful they are. And if they didn't dig into these thumb drives or emails, especially when a former Secretary of State and a sitting president's messages are involved, it's like a double standard. Okay. And we definitely saw that, between the Trump administration and as well as Biden, and just the cover up, Biden and Obama. It's kind of like if you were to give the police a bag of evidence and they just overlooked it, like it's right in front of them and they just overlooked it. And the results is this. What Lindsay mentioned is that this undermines people's trust in law enforcement and makes it look like politics decides who gets investigated and who doesn't. I know we have a lot of mainstream media out there that claims to be nonpartisan, but we don't see that a lot. We see this bias, and instead of reporting the truth, the average American has to literally go and search this information out for themselves to find out what's taking place and make a fair conclusion about the things that are taking place. And this is the reason why my podcast even exists as well. So I was just sick and tired of the lies I was reading. When I did more research, it just didn't add up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
Do you want to?
you're just seeing an undermining of the American people's voice from the Clintons to Obama. I mean, look at all of this information that has come forward that has been declassified and by Director Tulsi Gabbard, and there's more to come. That everything, regardless of your political affiliation, the coup that took place against President Donald J. Trump and what happened to Lieutenant General Michael Flynn and his family. And now of course, POTUS has been vindicated, but now we have all of this evidence that's come forward about Comey and uh, Rice and all these different people. There's a conglomeration of them, and now even President Trump is like, no, we need accountability. So now we need the DOJ to assess charges, because even looking at what former President Obama did was an act of treason against this country. What has transpired in these communications, and I mean, they were literally planning all of this behind closed doors. And now we're seeing Clinton's involvement in some other areas. So very interesting. All this is coming forward years later, after people like you talked about Sharona Bishop and what happened to her. Look what happened to General Flynn. He had to sell his house in order to fight legally. His son was attacked. All of this has happened, and we're still not seeing any arrests. Hopefully we'll see some soon. But, can you imagine the amount of information that is on these files and the overwhelming part? And some would say, in the argument is that America can't handle that, so we can't put all that out there. But then on the other arguments, like, yeah, we want to see it all, and we want to see we want transparency, but we also want accountability. If they can do what they did to President Trump and to General Flynn and to others, I mean, they've done it to Sharona Bishop, they've done it to Tina Peters, they've done it to so many people. Then what makes us think that after this election, after this era, this golden era with President Trump is over, that they won't come back and try to do it to us again? So we have this window of opportunity to hold these people accountable and to be tried for treason, or to be tried for seditious crimes against America, or whatever those crimes are, underneath. They need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
These politicians, no matter how high they sit on their pedestal, those strongholds must come down.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Trump is doing it without even trying to do it, if you look at it. Because when you consider the fact that you had all of these federal court judges issue the most injunctions during his presidency in the 20th century, I believe, that's a lot. These are people, these federal court judges, they're unelected officials. When we talk about the deep state, we're talking about the unelected officials, right? And so you see these judges coming out, and instead of, I love what the administration said, instead of focusing on the court cases in front of them, they're looking at what Trump's doing and bringing these cases to the forefront that nobody's brought up. They just don't like his policies on certain things, and so they're bringing up this before the court. And then the Supreme Court had an amazing ruling in Trump's favor that they can't do that, like it's an overstep of their authority. But again, that's like, just with him not complying and not doing it the way that we've seen it done, where it's just like, let's keep it all in the bureaucracy, let's do it this way, instead of honoring what we said to the American people. You see that the deep state is just coming out. And one thing I will mention too about what you said about the FBI under Comey is DOJ Inspector General Horowitz, right? That's his name, Horowitz. I believe he was very fair in both the looking into the case with Donald Trump versus in the Russiagate story, as well as the hoax into the Obamagate stuff, right? Because he did, when he did the investigation, he mentioned that the FBI did not do its job, basically, is that they ran with this Steele dossier that was unverified when their job was supposed to verify it. And they used that as a basis to get surveillance warrants on Carter Page. I think that's the foreign advisor, foreign policy advisor to Trump's presidential campaign in 2016. And that wasn't sufficient evidence, right? But then when you look at DOJ Horowitz's approach to the whole Clinton thing, when he looked into that, you see him making a fair approach too. He just remained nonpartisan in both situations, because he did mention that Russia did have, of course, some hand in influencing things, but it was not in collusion with Donald Trump at all. They didn't find any findings to that. Now, how Russia ended up getting the information that they got on Clinton, I mean, even the former FBI Comey said that they didn't find direct evidence. Listen to his wordings: direct evidence that it was related to her email, but they can't rule it out, right? Related to her private server. Um, but yeah, because it's a cyber attack. But it's just interesting how this was handled under FBI Comey and all the information that's coming out now. Uh, we may never know the full truth. Here's a few things that these thumb drives and emails could answer for us. Number one, were classified documents actually stolen or leaked? Did the FBI ignore key evidence to protect political figures? Super important. Did President Obama communicate on unsecured servers, potentially exposing national secrets? Those are the three things. So by skipping these steps, it's like you're closing a murder case when you have clear evidence of somebody's fingers on a gun, right? It just leaves the story unfinished and the truth hidden. And again, the impact on the average American is the government's own leaders can potentially mishandle secrets without accountability. And this is what I see in tons of the comment sections that I look at when I see these videos circulating about Obamagate and the Steele dossier, etc. People want accountability at the highest level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some news reporters mention for Obama, specifically since he was a sitting president, immunity, right? It's going to be hard to do anything, prosecute him because of that, because he does have immunity. But yeah, so the accountability, it this also creates a culture where ordinary people are punished for far less, while powerful people get to walk free. Okay. And this is something that we also have to look into with the FBI. Now, gratefully, Donald Trump, under his first term, fired Comey because he saw, what a mishandling of the files in his first administration. And then now it looks like we have much better and reliable FBI and DOJ under this second term of Trump, because again, Trump came in ready this time, very much ready to take on this, to take on the presidency, to take on all of the things that are coming his way when he's trying to implement what an overwhelming number of Americans voted for on this issue. Before we move on to the next topic, do you have anything you want to conclude in that?
Yeah, just there was actually some new posts, and I just saw them this morning because I've been kind of out for the last few days beyond just basic stuff. But I did
Yeah.
see some circulation, and I have to go to the standard behind it. Is this true? Where Obama does not have immunity regarding certain things. And I think, it'll be interesting to watch Judicial Watch and their response on this, and they may have already responded to it. They're one of my go-tos on this in some of this area. And then there's also some other things that have posted. So I think there could be a possibility that he may not be immune to everything. I don't know that for a fact, but I did see some documents and some probably what you would call independent journalists that were talking about some of this, and they had some substantive claims. So I want to see the receipts on those. I'm always going back to with something like that. What is already written into law as to is can this happen? Can this not happen under this guideline, under this guideline? So that's something I'm actually going to be researching over the weekend. So I'm really excited to see that because I would love to see him prosecuted as well as
Awesome.
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think there has to be something done, right, to restore the public's trust and to also to know that at the highest level that certain these things that you're doing in secret to undermine someone else or to put someone else in jail, or impeach someone or to shape the public perception
Hmm.
of them is
Yeah,
prosecuted. That you can't do that. There should be some accountability, and we should have more honest people at the highest level.
yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, yeah. So I think that's great. I signed up for the Judicial Watch as well, or not signed. Yeah, I did sign up. You have to make a one time donation, and they fill you in on what they are, their cases, and that's why I mentioned the FOIA, or the Freedom of Information Act, that any American can access to get information that is declassified, and know what's happening in a certain case. But yeah, I'll be watching for that too. And checking out your segment on that as well. I'm sure you'll talk about it. But yeah, these are just, it's just so important. And I constantly see, I know that Donald Trump is moving so fast. Okay. Like all the deals that have recently been closed with the EU and all those amazing. We have, mainstream media that, always goes against Trump, and anything he does has to also agree that it is a major victory. Um, in trade agreements and foreign, just foreign affairs, that he's doing just a great job with that EU deal. But you know, this, you have to literally dig right now to find that this story is still being uncovered. We're still looking at Kash Patel to bring some things to the light, which I did see before hopping on. I'm not necessarily familiar with this term, but it is like, what do they call that? Burn bags? Yes, I think that's the word. Burn bags, where there's supposed to be information in these bags that I think they're supposed to throw away or whatever, or tarnish, that Kash Patel ended up finding in regards to the whole Obama gate and things like that. So there has to be more that's going to be coming out. Fox News shared a report on this, so if you guys want to check that out, you can. Burn bags, Kash Patel. Okay. So Israel and Hamas is the next thing that's ringing and has been ringing around social media, going around social media right now, and with a lot of bias, I believe. And again, there's a gap between, I feel like what's being covered and what's not. And when we look at the Hamas conflict, a lot of the things are on the, starvation of the children and Hamas, etc. And again, I was talking to Mike about this because he talked about an expert that he had on his podcast, and this expert was sharing about how they even raise their kids different. So what we have in the White House, we have people that we look up to. They're not necessarily murderers or necessarily martyrs. Some of them are, but these are, we have photos of people we look up to in our country that helps inspire us, etc. Whereas in Gaza, what they're doing is they're training them to, most of the people that they have looking up to, they're people that gave their life for a terrorist act or something like that. And that's what they want their kids to look up to. This is what they're training them to do. And this is the stuff that goes unchecked or untold by the media, by journalists. And they get you just to focus on one thing, which is hatred for our ally, Israel. And I personally, I just see right through this. I don't agree with any of these tactics that the media is doing, and I will continue to do my research on this. The only people I see literally standing up for the hostages that are still in Hamas's captivity, which this is a militant group, guys, not a state actor. It's a militant group. Is Donald Trump, and of course Israel, and maybe CBN as well, Christian Broadcasting Network. They're the only ones telling the truth on this when it comes to the we're talking about aid, for example, the aid getting into Gaza. Who's actually holding that up, and who's actually stealing the aid? And it doesn't really make any sense for Israel to partner with the UN and other actors to get aid into Gaza and then just not distribute it. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, why you didn't let it in the first place? And then you find out that the media is trying to paint the picture that Israel is doing it, when it's actually Hamas. Okay, even Donald Trump has said that from his own mouth. So and we look at the peace deal that has been. I want to also hit on this, the peace deal that's been between Israel and Hamas. In my personal opinion, and what I've seen, Hamas never wanted a peace deal. I can get your thoughts on this, but their refusal to make peace, and the media is saying that basically what I've seen from different articles is Hamas's agreement is, let's do a ceasefire and then I'll give you the hostages. It's not that simple, because if you actually do more research, you'll find out that in part of that peace deal is that Hamas wants 30 Palestinian prisoners to be released per hostage release. How can you negotiate with that? That's an unacceptable term. We don't even know, these Palestinian prisoners are in Israel, locked up for God knows what. And they want 30 per person. Why? So they can continue to carry out their agenda, their ideology of completely annihilating and destroying Israel. Plain and simple.
Well, you have to look at the root of all of this. And when people say there's bad actors in Israel, there's bad actors in our government, regardless of the political side. I'm still a fan of the word uniparty. So whether you look at the
Mhm.
left or the right, you've got people dissing Israel on both sides. You've got people on both sides that are Palestine sympathizers, Gaza sympathizers, whatever, which is sympathizing with Hamas. You've got people on both sides of the aisle. If you look at the most local level, um, and you bring it back down to why do we see this argument in America? One, the church is not standing up like she should.
Mhm.
Because if she was, then we would not be looking at these things in the global perspective that we are, or national perspective. The second piece is that we have the Council on American Islamic Relations um, partnering with legislators at the most local level, down to your city level, putting in ordinances like the hate crimes ordinance, which is a welcome mat for Sharia. And this is
Mhm.
we have school accreditation units even in South Carolina that are giving accreditation to um, educational charter schools, or that are not public schools, and they're teaching Sharia. We have no-go zones like Islamville in South Carolina that was established in the late 1980s. And there are multiple cities in South Carolina alone that have adopted this hate crimes ordinance. And now you have it at the state level. And we've got Republicans co-sponsoring this bill. And one Republican in particular has defended it on behalf of Israel in a YouTube video. And this legislation then opens up the way for, if someone puts out I don't want this type of person in my store because whatever, there it just opens up the door to all kinds of things. I could go down that path, but I really don't want to. But it's very detrimental. So then you see it at the national level. I mean, we've got people. I was just in DC a couple weeks ago, and I saw people who were still, sympathizers of Hamas. This is not a religion. This is a cult. It's a demonic
Yes.
entity. And people say, well, not all Muslims are like this. They read the same Quran. They read the same guidelines. They may not act out on it, but if they are believers of this, satanic cult, then it is then you're subscribing to that agenda, even if you're peaceful in your religion. It's not a religion. It is an ideology that is
It's a political ideology.
counterproductive
Yes.
to America and our Constitution. Not only that, but look back at the Crusades. What were they trying to do, the Christians, to stop the spread of the Islamic State even then? And now you look at England, where mothers with their babies and prams are being arrested for speaking out diplomatically about the Islamic State and what they're doing in their country. They're getting locked up, but the men that rape and torture young girls and women, and in some cases, kill them, there's no repercussions. And this
Mhm.
is already on our doorstep here in America. So this argument of, Hamas versus Israel, we have to align biblically here, and the church has to take a stand.
I agree with you on that, and I want to add something else to that too. Is that the narrative in Gaza, for example, is controlled by Hamas. They restrict journalists. They manipulate the casualty data, and they ensure that the world sees the devastation without acknowledging Hamas's own responsibility for placing civilians in harm's way. Because again, like I mentioned before, Israel is seen as the aggressor because they are a state actor with military power, which, and they're an ally of the United States, of course, which makes its actions far more visible and open to international scrutiny and criticism. While Hamas operates with civilian areas, we're talking about them setting themselves up, or placing, embedding themselves in hospitals, in mosque, in schools, which creates this perception that Israel is targeting citizens when it's actually going after militants. Right.
Yes.
So this is the strategy there that we don't see the media reporting on here. And
Mm-hmm.
so this kind of paints the perception that Israel is this bad actor, they're doing the wrong thing, etc. And like I mentioned, I've seen when I look at Donald Trump's his not only just his policies but the way that he's enacting things and doing things, it doesn't seem like it's ever in favor of even a friend. It's like America first all the way. Because if that were the case, then he would have kept those EV mandates for Elon Musk, who was his top donor during his presidential campaign. And even Israel got slapped with tariffs, right? So there's I think Donald Trump is very I believe he's really wise in this area. And when people say that I heard a news reporter say that Donald Trump, there's some people reporting that you need to put more pressure on Israel to do things. Well, he said, well, that could also be looked at as I am, giving favor to Hamas, and I'm not going to do that. I'm totally against that. It's very hard to negotiate with them because they're
Hmm.
not a state actor. I'm just going to say that they're a militant group, like you mentioned. They have an ideology. It's like a military ideology. This Islamic extremism, a political identity, is how they operate and do things. Like from the political standpoint, not just how they live everyday life. We're talking about how they affect other nations, the decree that they have on the destruction of a nation. That all comes from, like you mentioned, the Islamic extremism, the Quran, the Sharia law, etc. Their founding charter explicitly calls for the destruction of Israel and rejects only a two-state solution. Which
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff that Donald Trump has, I guess, Truth on his Truth Social app, but he said that we have some nations like France, I believe, Macron also saying that they want to recognize Palestine as a state and all that. It's just funny how we got Iran in a place where we kind of shut them down. Saudi Arabia is kind of I haven't seen much on them reporting saying anything about this after Donald Trump's visit. But now we have all these other allies, the allies, coming forward and saying that they don't want to necessarily, acknowledge Israel as a, state, but they wanted to do Palestine. And we understand that the reason why Israel is not going to do that is because it poses a threat to Israel. And the funny thing is, I think we've mentioned this before that uh, Israel gave them Gaza, and what did they do? They use it as a tool to get as close as they can to the state and attack it completely and try to destroy it. There's no reportings. There's not much reportings on the amount of times the Houthis have sent bombs into Israel. There's reports that they have done this up to daily, like every other day. The Houthis send bombs, missiles attacking Israel, different parts of Israel. There's no reports on that. We didn't even hear about that. You have to go look for that information.
Yeah.
And then you understand the hostility that this nation is under with all of these other hostile nations around it. So to
Yeah.
have
And
a nation, oh, sorry, you
oh
go
no, go
ahead.
ahead. You go ahead.
To have a nation like the United States backing it
Yeah.
is pivotal for its survival.
And I think when it gets down to like the political side, you've got people that are concerned about certain sorry guys, you're hearing my Belgian in the background. But you have certain people that are concerned about the influence of representatives working with, US congressional members in the way of policy. And I think that definitely is a valid point. Take a look at who is lobbying who and how it's affecting legislation. But when you look at Israel as an ally and what the Bible says specifically about this, and then you look at, I know people are defining Israel as, is it just a state or is it actually the body of Christ? And I know the Bible is clear. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole today,
It's
but
clear it's the body. Yes, it's
yeah,
clear.
it's very
It's the
clear.
body
So
of
we have
Christ.
to be very careful. People are accusing that Israel's full of pedophiles and that the Jews are pedophiles, and I'm like, well, no, there was probably some, but look in America, we
Yeah,
are the largest distributor and contributor in this area.
right. Sad.
Why aren't we? Why aren't you're saying this about Israel? Okay, I get it, but look in your own backyard. Go look in the mirror and say, what am I going to do about this? Because we shouldn't be depending upon government for our solutions or to put all our reliance on it. We, the people, are the government. So when I think people start in this argument and this narrative, they're posturing themselves just based on what they're reading in mainstream media or assumptions instead of actually getting down and doing the work themselves instead of just sitting behind a screen and being a keyboard warrior, which there are
Mm.
digital warriors and I'm thankful for them. But beyond that, people that can get out there and do something, there is so much to be done in this area, and definitely sympathizing with terrorists is not on the America First list.
Yes, it can't be on America First list. And we're going to get into more of their ideology too, and talking about Senator Lindsey Graham's uh, post on them. I think you mentioned that. Um, so before we get to our next ad or sponsorship, I want to say that there was an issue where there was a church bombing. That church bombing narrative that Israel struck a church in Gaza, and Bibi Netanyahu admitted to that, apologized for that. So I see some transparency there with how he's managing or doing things. Now, even though that was it was a tragedy. Um, and with the it's the Holy Family Church case is what it's called, but the global conversation quickly painted Israel as the villain again, without equal focus on the why the war even continues. And it's Hamas's refusal to surrender hostages and create, and cease its attacks. So, I think we have to look at those things equally. And I'm not trying to shed light on the fact that what the church bombing thing was, was horrible and incorrect. I'm not, I'm saying these two things cannot be overlooked. Okay, we can't just focus on one narrative and not also consider the entire context of it. So that's the aim there. We're going to take a moment. We're going to come back and discuss more of Hamas's ideology and get into Senator Lindsey Graham's post as well. We'll break that down right after this ad with Jace
You
Medical.
probably saw the flooding in Texas, like major flash floods in San Antonio. People getting rescued from their cars, neighborhoods underwater. It's heartbreaking. And honestly, it's a wake-up call. We don't think about this stuff until it's too late. Like, what if the roads are shut down? What if you can't get to a pharmacy? What if someone in your house needs antibiotics or emergency meds and help is not coming fast enough? That's where Jace Medical Kits come in. They are phenomenal. It's a little emergency supply of life-saving antibiotics and other meds prescribed to you and shipped to you. This is prescribed medications from real physicians. They are able to customize a package for you. I didn't get mine because I'm paranoid. I got mine because I've got kids, a husband, family, and friends and neighbors around me. And if a flood, storm, blackout, or whatever happens, you don't want to wait on medical services if you're someone who requires meds like albuterol or insulin. So if you've been thinking or haven't set a plan for having emergency meds on standby, don't wait. Jace Medical makes it super simple. You can use my code Iesha, Iesha, and you'll get a great discount on medications that you need. You can find the link in the bio or the description.
Awesome, guys. I just saw a report as well. This is from Fox News, I believe, with Maria. She was saying how we're getting close to closing this deal with China. Scott Bessent was talking to her about this, and how mainly China needs us, right? We're the biggest consumer, and Trump takes that approach very seriously. He understands that we, as a consumer, the consumer is always right, and he applies that to the global market as well. And it's why we see so many wins in this area. And I do believe and prayerfully they come with a nice solid deal that benefits both China and the U.S. But one of the things also that Maria mentioned in our interview was that we still rely on China for a lot of the medications that we need. So Jace Medical, guys, is an amazing way for you to have emergency supplies of prescribed medication. We're not talking about just over-the-counter stuff. Prescribed medications where you actually talk with a doctor and they go over, your allergies and all that. You get to select the things that you need in your house. And it's a really good, a big supply, a nice kit that they put in like a beautiful blue bag for you that you can have in states of emergencies, like what we saw, unfortunately, in Texas and around the world, in California, which we will get to the wildfires too, and all of that. So this like emergency kit, I think, is amazing to have, guys. And as one of our sponsors, they have provided a discount code for you. So if you're watching me, you can use my discount code Iesha, Iesha, lowercase, and put that in at checkout. It'll give you a nice discount for the medications that you need. And one thing I do love also about Jace Medical, and I will state this because I do have my own kit as well, because I believe in exactly what I'm sharing with you guys about. Jace Medical, one of the things they do is after you submit your order, I love how they do a follow-up, because remember, they're not meeting you in person. This is so convenient. They ship it to you, order online, and they ship it directly to you. Before they finalize that order, they do a final check where they email you and make sure that the medications are aligned, and they hit any allergies that you might have that you might wrote off when you were adding the medications to your list of purchases. So I love that because it's just a double security, making sure you get exactly what you want, and there's no no hassle there. There's no back and forth about sending something back, etc. It's just, you know, making sure everything's correct. And again, these are real physicians, real doctors that are behind the scenes doing that. And so if you want just to have that on hand, emergency supply of medications for you, especially, for example, you're like someone, like I mentioned in that video, insulin, you can't wait on that. Albuterol, you can't wait on that. So if you are someone that has those desperate needs in your household, or you just want to have it on hand, use my discount code, go ahead and grab yourself a cup of that medication, prescribed medication that you need, have it on hand if anything ever takes place. So love Jace Medical. Okay, now back to the Israel versus Hamas. So I want to talk a little bit. We hit on their ideology just a little bit about the Islamic extremism, and it's just not a faith at all. It's not simply a faith, right? It's and it's not. Well, that's with Christians. It's not just, you know, this faith is what we believe in, what we enact, and etc. And we have, you know, we follow the word of God, and I believe Donald Trump, you know, a lot of his rhetoric or what he talks about. He mentions God a lot in Jesus, and that we need this nation to come back to that foundation of Jesus, which I'm very proud to have voted for a president that actually acknowledges that unapologetically. But when it comes to Hamas, their political identity and the militant ideology that they have, we talked about them. It's just based on the destruction of Israel, and they've even mentioned America. Okay. So when they have this type of ideology and we're looking at trying to get a peace deal, right? It means that there's no peace deal that will satisfy Hamas, because that's not their agenda. Yeah. Okay. Unless it aligns with their ultimate goal of wiping Israel off the map, there is no peace deal that will work. And like I said before, I don't believe they ever wanted a peace deal. Okay. Israel, therefore, sees itself as fighting for survival, not just retaliation. If another October 7th attack were possible, Hamas would do that without hesitation. And when we talk about Israel, that they must act, I think about it like this. If somebody in my family was, you know, it's hard to think about, right? But if somebody in your family is taken by a militant group or anyone, you're telling me you wouldn't go through hell and high water to get them back? Come on. So you're talking about Israel, who what country? I mean, look at what Donald Trump did. He didn't just sit back with our American citizens who had been, you know, in prison abroad. He got them back to the United States, right? Yeah. What country do you know would sit back and let its civilians be kidnapped and its borders attacked by a group committed to its destruction? What country do you know would do that? And that's what I feel like what you see in the media is what they're basically asking, because there is no peace deal with them. If you understand their ideology and you understand their goal, there's not one that's going to be made. And I think Israel is coming to this conclusion where it's impossible. And they've tried, but the demands that this militant group makes is unacceptable with the peace deal. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. And Donald Trump has said in a recent, I saw a recent conference when he went to, I believe it was the EU. They asked him about this, and he said that, you know, which was sad. He said that he questioned a lot of the hostages that were returned, how their treatment was and all that. And he said that a lot of them said that they were in tunnels. He said he did like this with his hand, like circular tunnels, and that they couldn't breathe. A lot of them thought that they would die just from suffocation. And they would only up the tunnels to get stuff out or to do something, but it wasn't necessarily to give them air. And he said, he asked them, you know, how we had, you know, Nazi Germany, and you had some people that stood up and actually hid Jews in their homes, in their basements, etc. He said, did you see he asked these hostages if they saw any sign of compassion from these, from Hamas, from this militant group, like maybe just throwing a piece of bread or something that shakes their head, like, you're going to be okay, or something like that. He said, every last one of them he interviewed said no. And he said the amount of hatred these people have for Israel is just unheard of. And we don't understand that here in the West, because we don't have to deal with that. We don't have to deal with the Houthis sending missiles to our civilian areas. We don't have to. We're so shielded and protected, which is, I'm thankful to God we have, you know, such a strong nation, you know, and we got, you know, a lot of allies. But, you know, we don't understand what Israel is facing there. And we just see this narrative that the mainstream media paints, and we just run with that without doing any research. Because some of us actually, average American, don't have time to do the research. They're working, they're just getting their news on the fly. And it seems if they paint that journalists are so savvy. They paint that picture exactly the way you need to see it so that you can come into agreement with what they just said. And it's very detrimental. Lindsey, the Senator Lindsey Graham. I think you mentioned this. Maybe mention this. He had a video. I don't think I have that, but he has a video where he's called out because he says that I'm summing it up, but he says that we basically we can't treat when we look at Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany. There with certain enemies, the only way for you to they don't stop unless you stop them is basically what I think he was saying in that interview. It's just he was very direct though, and he said he compared Hamas to Imperial Japan, and Nazi Germany, where we had to literally go in and attack them, right? Where Japan, we dropped those bombs in Hiroshima, etc. We had to totally dismantle them. And a lot of people were outraged. It was like, he's talking about totally obliterating Gaza and la da 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 da. But history teaches us again that some enemies, they don't stop unless they're stopped, right? And I, like I mentioned, I think what he was getting at is the clearing up the morality behind defending ourselves against a terrorist organization, against terrorism. Right. And not that it abandons compassion, for innocent lives. I think it's possible to care for innocent lives, but also to say unequivocally that we will not tolerate terrorism. And it's like it's just very hard to negotiate with the terrorists. Like I mentioned before, Hamas hiding behind their civilians. They use them as shields. Okay, that's something that we won't understand because we don't necessarily see our government doing things like that, right? And it builds its war machines in hospitals and schools and neighborhoods. And if we want to see real peace in that region, that terror infrastructure has to be dismantled completely. And Israel understands this. I think Donald Trump understands this as well. That doesn't mean that we should be indifferent to the suffering of the Palestinian civilians. Every life matters, but we have to be honest with where about Hamas and where we stand with any negotiation with them and what has to take place next in order for there to be peace. We look at, for example, Donald Trump and his actions with the nuclear facilities. It's a possibility. It's possible to destroy and aim for certain things. Like we took out those nuclear facilities without actually touching the civilian population, right? Executed very well in the United States part. Kudos to Donald Trump. And we do have evidence that those nuclear facilities have been obliterated as well. I mean, if they weren't, I don't know why we would have a fatwa, I think that's how you call it, for Donald Trump's head and for Benjamin Netanyahu. And then Bibi Netanyahu, also strategically took out, high military leaders as well. And again, we saw them in, when I saw the footage, they were in like hotel rooms and things like that, which makes it, I think, extremely hard for them to target them without, civilian casualties, which I think they had very limited, or I'm not sure how many they had or if they had any at all there. Any thoughts on that, Lynz?
Well, I think it goes back to going behind Lindsey Graham's intentions, who's funding him, and some of those things. I'm definitely not a fan. But when you look at Nazi Germany, we contributed to the Holocaust because Hitler was influenced by the eugenics studies that were done through Stanford University. He actually applauded us and gave us credit for what we did to the Jews and Holocaust with what Hitler did. So I think we always have to look behind the veil and see what the influence is behind a politician's statement, because notoriously Lindsey Graham is all about war. And war is a very huge impact financially, brings in a lot of money. So, I mean, I think that we do have to shut down the terrorists. There's no negotiations with them. Even when we could go on and on, but even when the bomb was dropped over Japan, I think it was Glenn Beck that mentioned that we dropped thousands of literature down to the Japanese to warn them that something was coming. And if they picked it up on the spot, they were gunned down by their own militant soldiers there. So I think there's always two sides to every story with what's happening. Have we had any contribution to terrorist acts in the past with what happened with the Holocaust? Absolutely. Because Hitler, I mean, we even had the scientists come here to our American government after it was all said and done. But we have to find a way to shut down these terrorists. There can be no negotiations with them, especially when they're standing on our own soil saying death to America.
We're going to get, hopefully we'll get to that. I know that we're pressing for time. I want to get you on some other things as well before we close today's podcast. But you know, again, I keep saying the same quote that I learned from Dr. Ben Carson, where he said, again, our military, our enemies can't defeat us militarily. So they attack us basically internally. They come after our systems. They use our systems basically against us. When you talk about free speech, when you talk about freedom of religion, etc. And we see the rise of people like Zoran Mandani and Omar Fatah, I believe that's his last name, and many other socialists and communists rising up in our nation. And we see a surge, again, I think under Obama, we had a surge of Somalians that came in, right? And they all carry that same ideology. And yeah, like you mentioned, there's some peaceful Muslims. But I like what, oh gosh, I can't remember her name, but she always reports on Islam, and she has a lot of
talking about Annie?
Not Annie. It's another one. It starts with a B. Bridget. I can't remember her last name.
Brigitte Gabriel.
But thank you, Gabriel. Brigitte Gabriel. Yeah. She mentioned. I remember watching her at. I guess it was like a press conference or some type of conference with. There were some Muslims, sorry, that were there. And one Muslim said, you know, that there's some peaceful Muslims or whatever. And she mentioned a ton of attacks by Muslims. And she said she kept ending it with, every time she labeled an attack, she'd say, the peaceful majority, irrelevant. And then she named another attack, peaceful majority, irrelevant. Da, 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 da. And then she even stand up and she said, now, how many of your peaceful majority are here today? And the lady said, just me. Because nobody else. So she was like, okay, so if we have a rally of you guys standing up against this and speaking out against this, then we got some movement. We can say something different. But the peace majority have remained mute.
Yeah.
Right. It just says a lot. Yeah. So we'll digress there because I want to get to the last thing before we end our segment for today. Okay. So California wildfires. I definitely want to get to this because I am so sick of seeing Governor Newsom, or as Trump calls him, Governor Newsom, constantly tweeting against all the things that Donald Trump is doing. He always has something to say, and his whole state is still in shambles. When you look at the fact that we had these wildfires that took place this year, and then California is not immune to them, but the fact that you have this many people still displaced is insane. And then we get to a place where, because you have people that haven't necessarily claimed their property, haven't been able to rebuild, they start dealing with squatters. And it's horrible. So when you look at the California wildfires, 2025, in January, you had a series of 14 wildfires swept through Southern California, especially in Eden Fire in Altadena, and the Palisades Fire in Pacific Palisades. It says it burned over 57,000 acres. But Trump and came in with an executive order for California, and he had a deadline on that executive order. And we saw debris cleanup start to take place for over 9,000 homes in 35 days. The most unprecedented cleanup that we've ever seen in this nation. And still, with that many homes cleared up, and majority of homes are getting that cleanup. We still have some cleanup to do, but that's still a lot. Out of I think it was 16,000 homes or so that were affected. But in 35 days, that was the number, 9,200. We still have to wait on now that I think this is under, Governor Newsom's. We got to get permits. We have to get insurance claims have to pass so that people can start their rebuilding, etc., and get the inspection that they need. There's only been, since that time of Donald Trump doing that EO in January, etc., when I've done my research, we only have out of I believe it's 2,200. We have 6,000 homes that, I'm gonna get to my notes really quick. Here we go. Out of, let's see, 16,000 destroyed homes, we have a little bit more over that. Only 2,200 have received permits. That's just permits to actually begin to start to rebuild. As of mid-2025, just 6 homes have been fully, this is from urban.org, 6 homes have been fully rebuilt and actually occupied. Because after you build it, you still have to get an inspection to make sure that it's livable. So only 6 homes as of mid-2020. That's insane. So
that is insane.
If I'm Governor Newsom, like, I understand you don't like Trump, but your focus need to be on your state, especially if you're somebody claiming that you want to run for president. I don't see how you would ever be elected with these numbers. It's wild.
From what I have seen with some polling in the Democrat Party, many are greatly opposed to him because of his response to what's happened. Because it wasn't just an area that Republicans live, it's Democrats as well. And so they are not thrilled with his response to this at all.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with it. I constantly, I started to tag him on some stuff. I've never done this before, but I've been so fired up doing my research and seeing what's happening in his state. And then here he has time to get on Facebook Twitter is where I see most of his tweets and stuff, and just call out Trump for certain things. Like, dude, focus on your state. Get those people help. The same people you target, like the the National Guard, etc. They were the ones that came in and helped clean that up. When Trump did that EO, we had the EPA, we had federal partnerships that took place that allowed for that cleanup to take place that quickly. And the fact that he did an EO that had a date, have it all cleaned up by this time, move things along quickly. But after that is Governor Newsom. He has to work with these different companies when it comes to the permits, when it comes to the insurance companies giving the claims or, reviewing this and going quicker. And now, I mean, the fact that you got squatters on your land, I'm so sorry for these people that have to wait this long. We got FEMA, of course, FEMA is still around, but we saw what they did with North Carolina, $700 per person. I mean, and to think about it, FEMA provides temporary housing, right? This is not anything permanent. So we don't really know, where these people, what's happening with these people that they're being displaced, or some of them probably they're moving, because they don't have another choice, moving out of the state. It's just,
I think Newsom's looking forward to taking over those property rights and doing something with it, just like I've seen some narrative about that in Hawaii. They were trying to do that in Western North Carolina. And, FEMA is supposed to provide temporary housing, but it was the American people and organizations like Samaritan's Purse that came in and provided RVs for people in Western North Carolina. And even then, people were being persecuted. The Amish came down building, and they're still down there building, or it's up there for us, but they're building, and now they're responding to the floods in Texas. So Newsom is definitely new scum. He really is. He was on tour in South Carolina recently for his little pre-presidential stuff. Some of his stuff was correct in the sense that, South Carolina has higher crime rates per capita than California, but he shouldn't be coming over here telling us where we're wrong if he's not willing to take care of things in his own backyard, as you stated so eloquently.
It's wild. I thought about the Fire Aid concert, I believe this was called, where you had these singers raise money for wildfire relief in California, and we're hearing reports that that money is missing, that the actual people that the money was raised for, well, the actual organization that assisted in raising the money said that they sent them that the money is not going to actual an individual, but it goes to these nonprofits. The nonprofits is supposed to have systems in play, and goals where they help people with certain things. And people are in California are saying that they've never seen a dime of it.
There was a guy from Western North Carolina area, Asheville, Matt Van Swall, that actually was commenting on this the other day on his X thread and on his X feed. I was actually just looking for it, but he actually commented on that. And what organizations can we trust? He asked Data Republican, what organizations actually do what they say they're doing. And Samaritan's Purse came up, and then I think there's an organization that Glenn Beck partners with. I can't remember. I think it's Mercury One. And there was one other one that they said actually did what they said they were doing with those funds. But he actually has been digging into that. So I highly suggest people follow him. He's been out there asking questions, bringing out receipts, and then asking people who are in that area, like Data Republican, what is true, and they were actually commenting on this exact thing. I think it was a few days ago, actually.
My report says they raised $100 million. At least 70 million of that was lost or stolen by nonprofits. 70 of that was stolen by nonprofits. The rest is missing.
It's insane.
And I saw some people
That's why we got to vet these nonprofits.
Governor Newsom, stole the money. But yeah, so prayers for California, for them to have Governor Newsom to actually put his hand down, have a better plan, or at least get with Trump and get some strategies on how to transform things in your state, instead of just criticizing him to make your own campaign look good. Like, fix this. It's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now before we close, I want to end with some wins. Okay, so that we have for the Trump administration. Okay, let's start with just 10. There's many more than 10, but one big beautiful bill was passed. We have the tax and economic plan. We got some tax relief. Japan trade and investment agreement on July 22nd, where we had Japan agree to invest $550 billion into U.S. Strategic sectors, and they also accepted a reciprocal tariff of 15%.
That's amazing.
It's great. European Union trade deal on July 28th, a few days ago. They are saying that this is the most unprecedented deal, or probably the best deal that Trump could have made in so far. I'm about to say in his second term, so far in his second term.
Can I just pause you for a second?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I loved how President Trump was standing right next to the Prime Minister of England, and he's dissing the mayor of London, saying he's horrible.
Oh yeah.
And the Prime Minister was like, "Oh, but he's my friend." And I just thought, I was like, that was epic. I loved how President Trump shut him down.
He doesn't sugarcoat it. And I love his names. I'm going to do a video on all the names. I'm going to tell my people, I want you to guess who this is. I'm going to say too late. You guess who the name of the person is, Newscum, for example. But yeah, he comes up with these funny names. Like even the One Big Beautiful Bill is epic too. The name, Okay, but European Union, $750 billion in the U.S. energy and investing $600 billion in U.S. industry by 2028. They have a reciprocal tariff of 15% with zero, set of 50% with zero tariffs on many U.S. industrial exports, The Guardian and the White House says. And it's just securing a historic deal with our biggest trading partner. So that's going to strengthen American manufacturing and exports, which is one of the things he ran on. Deals with Vietnam, I'm going to sum these up just really short, but deals with Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Got deals with them as well. I believe it is, maybe it's Indonesia. Let me see. No, it's Vietnam. They are Vietnam. We did a 0 to 0. I believe this was Vietnam duty free exports. We have Vietnam's imports to the U.S. will hit a 20% tariff. Indonesia and the Philippines agreed to 19%. Trade truce with South Korea. South Korea secured tariff relief in exchange for energy and infrastructure investments in U.S. markets. Immigration and border security reforms. We have signed the Lake and Riley Act, expanded ICE authority, etc. The one big beautiful bill allotted a ton of money to that. We got our school choice and parental rights and education back. Mass deregulation agenda. We rescinded over 100 Biden era executive orders. Implemented agency rollbacks and created the Department of Government Efficiency. Make America Beautiful Again. We have the environmental initiatives. I don't know if you guys were able to watch the most recent press conference with Donald Trump and the head of MAHA. Forgot his name.
Robert
R-
Kennedy
RFK Jr.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. Thank you so much. AI and technology innovation leadership as well. So that's also advancing. That's going to put us at the top of the market for that, with the investment of NVIDIA and many others. This is so many wins that we have under Trump. Now, as we get into the local wins, for example, we mentioned school choice, parental rights and education, all these EOs that actually last the term of the actual president. This is where we have to start moving in the grassroots section of things. We have the midterms coming up in November. And I do want to encourage all of you, if we can put that asset up for the midterms. I want to encourage all of you to make sure that you are aware of who your candidates are, people that are running for a school board or different local level positions. Make sure that you are aware of them and that you actually take advantage of the major wins that we have under Trump, where everything should be where it is. We have, the parental choice of school and all those things, but that could easily be undone at the local level if you have somebody who is elected to those positions that don't agree with the agenda that has been set forth in the White House. So this is why I'm encouraging us. We have a major fleet here with a lot of, I love that, Donald Trump is not only pushing for limited government control and, on these areas, but also in the local level, he's giving that position back to where it should have always been, to the parent. So we don't have these critical race theory things taught in school, and also this gender stuff, and taught in school, where we have these erotic sexual books, disgusting, that they're pushing on children. Right. So we won a major fleet under Trump, and let's keep this momentum going, guys. Make sure you're voting in the midterms. I encourage this because if you look at the statistics, the midterms is what always ends up being less, we have less turnout of voters, and that allows for the wrong people to be elected. And the local level actually so much determines that national. So we definitely have to make sure we're out there, we're voting, and you are aware of who these people are. Just take some time, do your research, look through who those candidates are, and make sure you are turning out to vote and make an informed decision. Do want to thank you so much, Lynz, for being here with me on this podcast today, sharing your insights and your expertise on these different issues, global issues within our nation. So thank you so much for that, taking your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I think you guys can find Lynz. I think we have her handles as well, where she can be found. She's on TikTok. She's on X. She's on Rumble as well. I don't remember if you're on YouTube yet.
No, just Rumble.
She gets censored a lot, just like Trump, because she's unapologetic about her stance again. But yeah, so she's. Can you share with us where we can find you on those platforms?
Yeah, so it's easy just to go to lynz.ai, and all my social media links are on there. Or you can go to X at Lynz Piper Loomis, and there's a link tree in my bio that has everything listed there. So.
And lastly, can you share about your book? Just a little bit about
Absolutely. So probably the easiest way for you to grab my book is to go to Amazon. Type in the search engine, I Am Silent No More. it'll pop up there. This book came out in 2022, and I talk about a good part of my journey from, when I was small all the way until up to my run for Congress. So I hope that you'll check it out. The support that the proceeds from that book go to help investigations I'm doing and in investigative journalism and some of the other projects I'm working on.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
guys, thank
you.
y'all so much for joining us. Again, you know where you can find me. Iesha Speaks Truth. I'm on TikTok. It's also on X, Rumble, and YouTube, and Iesha Schreiner on all the other platforms, because again, my start was a beauty creator stepping into this. So Iesha Schreiner on all other platforms as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Make sure to hit that like or subscribe or follow button, depending on where you're watching from. Make sure to check out our sponsors as well if you're interested in those offers that we just presented to you, especially with the discount that you get with Jace Medical. And make sure you guys hop in next Thursday. I'll be so excited to see you guys. And make sure you stay informed. Make sure you stay engaged. Make sure you are aware what's taking place in our nation. And I will see you guys next Thursday. Thank you so much for being with me.